Hello and welcome to the Keto Man's Club podcast.
We're glad you're here, where each week we talk about men's health and lifestyle.
We do so with the foundation of the ketogenic diet and lifestyle.
If you don't know what keto is, stick around and you'll find out.
The podcast will bring you real, honest fun.
Each week we strive to uncover the tips and tricks that you can use in your everyday life to maximize your overall health.
Find the clearest path to becoming the best version of yourself that you were meant to be.
Eat meat, lift heavy, sleep, and repeat. We call that our life cycle. Made a shirt about it, and it rings true with who we are as a podcast and a group. We are fortunate enough to have partnered with a company who can help us achieve one of those three key elements: Som Sleep. They have a keto-friendly version of their delicious sleep aid drink, and we're loving it. It's a lightly flavored 8-ounce anti-energy drink. You drink it roughly 30 minutes before you're ready to go to sleep, and you'll feel it help you into a deep, restful, all-night sleep. It provides some helpful elements to do so, including magnesium, GABA, and melatonin. When combined, you have a powerful tool for getting the impactful sleep that you and I so frequently don't get in our technology-driven, fast-paced lives. You can find it at some retail stores, but you can also purchase it online and get it shipped to your door. When you do, use discount code TKMC10 and you'll not only be getting 10% off, but you'll be helping support the Keto Man's Club. You can find the link to their website by going to theketomansclub.com. We're thankful to Som for partnering with us, and we hope you'll benefit from the use of their product the way we have so far. Hello and welcome to this week's episode of the Keto Man's Club podcast. My name is Chris. I'm one of the hosts, and this week I'm joined by Jim and Bernie. Wait, that's different than normal, isn't it?
That rolled off the tongue a little bit different.
Who? Yeah. Hey, Bernie, welcome. Berto, who normally would, of course, be with us, he has a friend in from out of town, and it's his last night, and so it's important for them to have the in-person time, and so we're giving that time, and he's enjoying the evening. So we are excited to get to have Bernie on, co-hosting with us, and getting to chat with him. It's tonight's topic was his idea, so he gets to help. Let's start with Bernie. Bernie, how's life? What's going on?
Life's pretty good. You know, it's been a strange year for everyone. I'm pretty proud to say that I've only gained 3 COVID pounds, and I'm actually going to say that those are 3 pounds of muscle in my legs because I've been hill climbing, 5 times a week in my neighborhood, doing anywhere between 30 and 50 floor equivalent climbs. And, I've built up some calves. So that's where that 3 pounds comes from. But eating keto and feeling well and managed to dodge all the bullets and financially surviving. So everything's good.
But boy, you are working so hard, because those of you that are watching the live stream, you're in bed.
I am in bed.
In bed, Bernie. Come on now.
Okay, I'm going to give you my excuse. My excuse is I live in a rather small house with 4 adults and 4 dogs, and I don't have a home office. So this is the only room in the house that I can close off and control the sound.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I'm sticking with that.
Yeah, no, it's all good. It's all good. We've got some that's really cool. Jim, how's your week been?
It's been a good week. We've got some snow up here in Indiana, which has been nice to finally have a little bit of winter and everything. And I've got no complaints. I'm glad to see Bernie all comfortable, tucked into his bed, and sheets pulled up to the cover or to the chin and everything. I mean, it's good.
It is good. Well,
right. I can add this. It's making it even more comfortable.
Oh Lord! Please screenshot this, Chris, so we can make fun of Bernie repeatedly moving forward.
This is the rest portion of the eat steak, lift heavy, and rest.
Yeah, absolutely. My week's been good, and keeping busy with a lot of projects that always seem to go south. There's always a technical glitch. It doesn't matter how many tools I use and how high end they are, or, how well I set up my hosts and all of that type of stuff. It's just one of those things. Eric, we're not gonna take our shirts off. I'm sorry.
Eric, and Mac McKay is asking the same thing.
Yeah.
Wait till spring.
Yeah, it's a little cold. I don't have my space heater on in here. It makes
the gyms have been closed. Come on, give us a break.
I did clock in at my lowest weight that I've tracked since 2003 or 4.
Oh, awesome!
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I still have some weight to lose, but the carnivore cut is definitely in action right now, and it's working so far. And this was the low that I hit at the end of the last cut, and then I kind of rebounded a tiny bit, and then now I've trimmed off that 4 or 5 pounds and kind of gotten back down. So it's I'll take that as a win. I'll take that as a win for sure. So yeah, good stuff there. The cut's continuing to go on. This is the end of week 2, I want to say. Here's I figured you'd be used to things going wrong with technology. I am totally used to things going wrong with technology. Just whenever it causes me to take a 3 or 4 hour video edit and it takes 8 to 10, it's kind of a sucky situation. Cackles in carnivore. Love it. Okay. There's probably a little delay on some of these comments too because of the streaming and everything, so I've got to remember that too. Let's see here. Let's cover some basic business that we normally cover real quickly, just some basic reminders, and then we will dive into our discussion and Q&A portion for today. It is always something that we would appreciate if our listeners and viewers in this case would take the time to go ahead and visit our website, theketomansclub.com. All of our links to the Facebook groups, all of the Facebook groups, the pages, and everything else is there for you. You can go to, we'll get this fancy and all that, theketomansclub.com, and be able to see all of our links. Yeah, getting all fancy.
Ooh, look at that.
Yeah, lower thirds. So we,
Chris, you're taking us to a next level. I mean,
hey, I'm trying. But that website is basically our connection point for everything, and that's going to get a makeover if I continue, or if I don't continue to have 3 or 4 hour edits turn into 10. That's going to happen hopefully soon. We'll have that going in the near future, hopefully. And that will be connection point still. It'll just have more information and more connections. So yeah, we've got some really cool things going on in the woodworks that you want to be aware of. Jim, have we set up the mailing list?
No, that is my project for tomorrow. It is a bank holiday, and that is my plan to get some things done with that. So talking about business and everything, and the other admins and myself have kind of discussed, all the craziness going on with social media, with Facebook, Instagram, and everything like that. And we just want to make sure that what has been created does not disappear into thin air because some Facebook deity decides that they need to do that. So stay tuned. All of you that are watching this, listening to this, we're going to come up with a couple different ways to enhance the connection option. so that if you're on social media, that's great. But if something were to happen, we'll have an email list. We, of course, have our Instagram and different things like that. There's nothing to fear right now or anything, but we're just wanting to take a proactive approach and make sure all of our T's are crossed, I's are dotted, so that we can connect with everybody any which way we can.
Absolutely. And in answer to Randall's question, yes, it'll be email more than likely, because those are easy and all of that stuff. We have the website chosen to host that. We just haven't set it up yet. So we're going to work on that. Jim's gotta get that going tomorrow, and that'll be great. Yeah.
Worst case, we'll do that old texting thing where you have to hit 777 to get to the letter, and 444, and make it really interesting, and have our own little secret code. And then while you're waiting on updates for Berto's steak diet, you can play the snake game that just goes around and keeps
Columbia House except for meat, and then
12 steaks for $1. Columbia House.
Yeah. And then Ham Radio Network. Yeah.
Oh, it's gonna get bad now.
Yeah. 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 So definitely cool stuff coming down the pipeline with all of that. And you can connect with us via email, ketomensclubpodcast@gmail.com. You can also text or call us.
Yes, Randall Phipps Johnston. I love Snake too.
That was a fun game. I had that on my Nokia phone, amongst other things. Yeah. You can also leave us a call or leave a voicemail at 512-518-6161. So you've got you've got a couple different ways to connect with us, and we'd love to hear from you. Also, if you got the chance to go to Amazon or to the Apple podcast group, which honestly is kind of tough, and I hate saying that because kind of work there, but I don't work in that department. But that said, we would crave and really appreciate any comments or ratings that you could leave on the podcast to help get it out into the algorithm a little bit better. Okay, so that covers all of the basic business that I can think of right now. And so let's go ahead and dig into shout outs. Let's start with Jim, and then we'll do Bernie.
So, every so often we'll have one of those photos that pops up that like you do the double take, not so much because it's the before and after, but more of the, oh my Lord, is this a naked photo? And so that happened earlier today, actually. Flynn Abbas, who I don't really know, had on a black apron that says caution. It's kind of hard to see because of the angle, but caution, smoke coming through, something like that. And it's a shirtless pic, which is totally fine. But it was just one of those where when you looked at the angle for a second, you're like, this might be the reason we get banned from Facebook. So Flynn's rocking it out. He's out in Vermont, and it just it was one of those like, do I look at this too long because then it's weird, or do I not look at it too long? So Flynn, just thank you for making my Sunday a little bit more enjoyable.
Very cool. Bernie, who you got?
Okay, I want to say quickly, Flynn's got a really cool story. He is in another Facebook keto group that I think Chris is part of, and myself and Berto. And he connected with a woman in that group, and they recently got married.
Oh,
so
really?
So it's this kind of cool keto group romance that's worked out, and they both seem like pretty awesome people.
Keto after dark. Fair.
Keto after dark. Nice. I am giving a shout out to Jason Thompson. I looked specifically just in the 101 group for this, and he's posted twice this week. Jason says he's been doing keto for 8 months. He posted a photo from 2 years ago in July when he was 280 pounds, and he posted a picture from this week where he's 182 pounds. That's 98 pounds lost in 8 months, I'm guessing. So that's pretty cool. And he posted another post about 3 days ago about mental health and talking about how much he values the brotherhood in the two Keto Men's Club groups. And that's something I agree with and value very much too. So wanted to call him out and say, awesome, I agree with you.
Absolutely. Yeah, he's doing the carnivore cut with us, and he's making massive trends or steps forward. Here, I'll actually do this real quickly because we can get fancy.
Chris is like a kid on Christmas morning that just got all the cool toys.
We weren't fancy enough. Oh,
there we go.
There it is. The post.
Yep. That's the transformation post there. And so, yeah, he
was very sunburned 2 years ago.
Yes, he was. Yes, he was. Yeah. So it's, that's another great shout out. I am going to shout out, let me get back to that tab, Ralph Citarella, mainly because, and I have to show this because this is just like massive. He posted, there we go, massive tomahawk. There we go. And they showed him, yeah, trimming that thing down. And yeah, so, we're all about.
That is the cow.
It's a very large part of the cow, at least. But yeah, that's.
Did he ever identify exactly what cut of meat that is?
Let me get in the comments here. Let's find out.
It looks like a haunch.
Yeah, let's see here real quick. My first round of cut was less than awesome. He's got his technique down now.
Oh, that's right. It was Brontosaurus. Someone said.
It's from the
Brontosaurus. There we go.
From the intro of the Flintstones, where Fred picks up the rack.
Oh no, there's a picture of the label. I think.
That's. This is for. Oh, it's a ham. It's actually ham. It's not beef.
Huh?
Yeah, that's a very large preservative-free ham. It looks like.
Wow.
So yeah, interesting.
Yeah.
Cool stuff. So yeah, just anytime someone shares a picture of a massive chunk of meat and enjoying it and doing something different with it that's always that's fun to get to experience with them. So thank you so much for sharing. It doesn't seem fair that Spain both has one of the most awesome hams there is with this one of the most awesome cheeses, Manchego. Yeah, they've kind of been doing it longer than America, I think. On some level at least. Okay, so anyway, we have gone on long enough with our shout outs there. Let's get into the topic for the day. So the basic idea today was that we wanted to have a Q&A about the basics, back to 101, basically, and all of that. And so we wanted to get questions from you guys, and I'm going to let most of these queue up for a little bit, and so leave your questions in the comments. We'd love to see them. And if you're a keto veteran, meaning that you're not from the 101 group or you've been around for a while, go ahead and ask yourself the question, what was the question that I had early on that was really necessary for me to learn that really made a difference along the way? So ask that question in the comments. So for our veterans, go ahead and leave a question. I'm a very lucky fellow. It is delicious. And he's about 1/3 of the way through. So thank you for joining us, Ralph. That's awesome. Go ahead and post your questions questions that you should have asked in the comments there, because that's a that we'll pull from those as we go. Sorry.
I do think that there is one question that we cannot allow.
Okay.
On a very serious note, and that is, don't ask us what you can have at Starbucks.
You almost made me take a spit take there. You almost caught me. That was a
It
go real fast.
To take a drink then, but so help me, that was one of the biggest reasons that our groups were formed, is because any of the other keto groups, constant, what can I have at Starbucks? Is this okay at Starbucks? Well, I'm in the Starbucks line. What can I do? Figure it out. So no Starbucks questions is all I ask.
Yeah, no Starbucks questions. Yeah. That's no problem there. Uh-oh.
Yeah.
No, we're not allowing it. No, we're not allowing
not allowed.
Who is the bat? I won't say it.
Okay, so let's go ahead and dive into some of the basics here. So one of the questions, I have a couple notes. Hopefully you guys have at least thought about or have some notes on kind of what the basics are. And let's start with the first one. What is keto? Like, how do you define keto? And there are some groups that have very specific explanations of this. There's others very much like our own that don't really stay in a specific lane. But let's go around with the three of us and answer that question, each of us kind of in our own point of view, because I think we've all come at it from different angles. So Bernie, why don't you start with your definition of keto, and then we'll go with Jim.
Well, in simplest terms, keto is a zero sugar, very low carb way of eating that results you being in ketosis and burning ketones for fuel, which you get from burning fat. That's the simplest form. I guess, things like macros and stuff is the formula to make sure that happens.
So I'm glad that you said it, and without any training, you said the way of eating and not a diet. And that's the thing, excuse me, I think a lot of people worry about is that when they hear diet, they think restrictive. And yes, keto is restrictive in the fact that you're not going to be eating potatoes, breads, pasta, things that are starchy, that have a lot of sugar and such. But that doesn't mean restrictive as in you can't have things to compensate and still enjoy. And Bernie's exactly right about getting into that ketosis factor so that your body is fueling itself on the fat that you've accumulated over time.
Yeah. So the way, just to quote two keto dudes, because they did it so succinctly, they got it down pat. They would say you eat fat for fuel, or you use fat for fuel, whether it be on your plate or on your body. And so that's a really great way to put it for fuel. So we choose to eat fewer carbs, like almost none, and we instead eat we get our energy source from fat. And for some people, so the ratios, that's what most of the keto fights end up being about, are high fat, moderate protein, I usually call it ultra low carb to the layman, because they think, oh, low carb, 150. Like, no, it's 20. And that's net, 20 net. I usually will give them, if you're doing total carbs and doing strict total carbs, 50 is probably okay. But that's but that is one of those things that you kind of have to work out what your sweet spot is and figure that out. I know for me, I do really, really well on the on carnivore, where it's basically no carbs whatsoever. That just plain and simple. That's I do really well on that. So let's talk about macros a little bit. There are 3 basic macros: fat, protein, and carbs. And I'm putting them in that order on purpose because that's kind of our priority. Not necessarily that you have to get in a certain amount of fat, especially whenever you're doing a cut like what I'm on, but you want to make sure that that's a priority. And one of the questions that we end up seeing is actually, right, we just shared it in our thing, and this actually comes from Jason Thompson, is why and how do I get so much fat in? And I think that's a completely great question to ask, because you have to go out of your way to do it. You have to add butter. You have to add keto-friendly, naturally derived, non-chemical storm beeping myself oils, and so that's you have to add that in there. And so things like avocado oil, adding butter, doing fattier cuts of meat, those all go into making that ratio. And as far as ratio goes, on gram for gram, because there is more calories in fat than there is in protein, gram for gram, I would say shoot for at least 1-to-1 grams protein to fat. So that way you're getting about 1.5 times the amount of calories from your fat that you are from your protein. And your protein is moderate. So it doesn't have to be like crazy 400 grams of protein a day, but you want to be enough to be able to feed your body and give it the building blocks that it needs. It's a major those amino acids that are in the protein, the meat that we're eating, that's important. So the Naaman method would say 1 gram of protein for every pound that you want to weigh, so that you kind of have this static place. And so around that, and you have to find your sweet spot, but yeah, the Naaman method would be helpful with that. And so the carbs need to come from green leafy vegetables. They need to come from vegetables that grow above ground, not ones that come from underneath the ground, that are starchy.
With a few exceptions.
With a few exceptions, yeah. There are a few. Go ahead and what are the ones that you're thinking of, Bernie?
Radishes, rutabaga. Of course, I'm on the spot now, but there's a few that I would eat, and I'd realize, oh, this does grow under the ground, but plus you're not eating a lot. You're not going to sit down and eat probably a cup of radishes. Sure. You put a little bit on a salad, or a little bit as a something crunchy to eat next to your steak.
Sure. And we've seen guys that have used radishes as a potato substitute, and chopping them up and frying them, and kind of using it as like a fried potato replacement, so to speak. Again, I'm not advocating that you do that morning, noon, and night, but if that's something that sounds good, give it a shot and see. A little bit of labor to get, that done, but can be a nice substitute occasionally.
Yeah, another one is himica, or however you pronounce that. Jicama. Jicama is also, I believe, grows below ground.
Yes. If you see it, they actually carry them whole in our grocery stores here, because the people in the area will actually use it as a part of their Mexican recipes that they make and whatnot. Right. And they're these huge roots that are about a foot round, basically at their largest. And yeah, they're great to have. They're great to have as a wrap. So they in HEBs and other grocery stores, they make them as tortilla replacement, basically, and it acts as a nice little, instead of a lettuce wrap. It's a nice way to do it, and they are really. It's a nice replacement for that type of thing. Artie, I think it's jicama, but I haven't looked at it recently, so I could be saying it wrong. Anyway, so yeah, your vegetables need to be on the low carb side, on the ultra low carb side, versus potatoes and things like that. Cauliflower, broccoli, those are both very good for you for many different reasons. They've got they've got quite a few different elements that they have in them that's really good for men's health specifically. There's some elements that broccoli specifically. There's some things that will help with testosterone and supporting hormonal health for men. So that's, as carnivore as I like being, that's one of those vegetables that I definitely like to introduce whenever I'm not doing strict carnivore. Any other things that we needed to springboard off of in terms of gallbladder, or that's later, in terms of macros and things like that?
I would just add that it is a constant adjustment. That is, your body changes and adapts and things. Your macros will change and so on as well. Mm-hmm. So don't get frustrated if you lose, let's say 15, 20 pounds, or if you're going more off the scale, which is something I wanted to talk about later, but going by how your body feels, the inches, if your clothes are becoming looser, things like that, then start looking at macro adjustments and things. And again, we may dive into that a little bit more as we go through this.
No, it's absolutely a good idea to take a look at your macros, and we'll have deeper discussions about how to formulate, or in fact, actually, let me do this here real quick. Savage.com. People will say, well, how do I calculate how much I should eat or what my macros should be? And our friend, Robert Sykes, who's been on the podcast, he has created a great macro calculator that you just go in, you give it your weight. So
what is that website, Chris, by the way?
It's ketosavage.com. Let me actually put it in a lower third on the, we're going to go fancy. Ketosavage.com/keto macro calculator hyphenated. So yeah, and this will give you a rough estimate based on your body fat estimation and things like that. And one of the cool things that he's done with his is that he will actually give you different phases. So when you're just getting started, here's your induction phase, confirmation phase. It's kind of where you like lock in things, maintenance phase, lean mass gain, accelerated fat loss. So he's got different modes for this because what you need macro wise in different stages of your journey will change. And so this is a great one. Keto Gains has another one. Okay. And this one's, it formulates it a little bit differently, and then you fill out the form and it gives you some other things. The thing that most of the Keto Gains folks would probably see, and again, I want to emphasize this. We especially don't ascribe to any one specific thing. What I described for what is keto was what has worked for me, and what has been successful for me. But and that's closer to the Keto Savage or that type of thing on the ratios. Keto Gains is a little more on the slightly low fat, I guess, side of things. So it's just kind of good to know that you have to find what works for you, and all of them can work in one way or another. It's just a matter of finding your sweet spot. Any other things that we need to talk about right now in terms of macros?
Not specifically about macros. I mean, like you said, there are things that need to be adjusted as you go along.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and so there's a lot of resources out there to get started in that. It can make your head swim when you're like, when I started 4 years ago, which is almost exactly 4 years ago, like next month, I didn't have a clue what the macros meant whenever I was looking at my chronometer or my Lose It or whatever application I was tracking my food in. I'm like, okay, what are these things? We will probably try to find a resource that does. I don't know that I could explain it any better other than fat, protein, and carbs, and that just doesn't do it quite yet. like on its own. So let's try to find a resource and share that out in the show notes or something at some point. But yeah. Jason pointed out in the comments here that Chronometer and Carb Manager both have built-in calculators. These you just put in your height and weight, and that it helps to give you a starting place. I would say that's a great starting place, but I would also say that that's something that you.
I mean, that's what my wife and I did. We used the Carb Manager calculated macros, and didn't really mess with them until 3 or 4 months in, when we felt like, we're not losing weight quite as fast. So we would say, going to drop fat intake 3% or 5%, sure. Which meant eating a little bit more protein, and it would work, or maybe, going with a little bit more calorie deficit. And there's a lot of little tweaks that you can make. And I think that's what's important to do, is not make big tweaks, make small tweaks, make incremental tweaks, and give it a couple of weeks and see what happens.
That's exactly what Weston here is saying. He says, give your macros a fair chance before tweaking them further. So, and some,
and nice fish, by the way.
Yes, that was a great catch. He is an avid fisherman, and he's not able to do much of that unless it's through ice right now, because he's up there in the Minnesota area. So he's up there pretty cold.
I do want to throw out one quick thing. A few minutes ago, we talked about what keto is, and I wanted to give the other side of the coin of what keto isn't.
Yes,
and because some people think it is, I eat all the bacon that I want. I eat all the eggs that I want. I eat steak all I want, and I'm keto. And that's not what it is, because even though you may be eating the right thing, so to speak, keep in mind that you can still, especially when we've had guys on the podcast talking about it, if you're a binger, if you're somebody who eats to excess, I mean, you can, I guess you could, but you should not eat like 5 steaks in a row in one sitting kind of thing. You're going to have excessive calories and so on. So you've got to look at kind of an entire picture, everything that's tied into it. Don't just think, I'm going to go eat 3 pounds of bacon every day and I'm going to drop 50 pounds by Sunday. It's not that. There's definitely a science to it and a nuance that you've got to learn a little bit about before you jump into this.
That is so. So one of the things that I probably, we've got people cheering you on here. Let's see, this is Jason.
Testify.
Yep, pretty much. So we, and this is another great comment. Keto isn't a license to gorge. So yeah, we definitely want to. We definitely want to make sure that we're that we want to make sure that we're not overeating. It's not the calories don't matter; it's that calories don't matter as much whenever as compared to whenever you're eating a carb heavy diet. Those people that eat a lot of carbs and are using caloric restriction, they find that they have to watch every single calorie. Whereas with keto, at least, especially at first, at least in my experience, I ate however much I wanted, but I did find that I got satiated. I got filled up a whole lot easier early on, and so that's one of those things that I think that is pretty common, is that you'll still kind of undereat in comparison to what maybe you were doing before, and be in the range of where you need to be. So calories matter, but they don't matter as much initially. I've had to intentionally reduce my calories though in order for me to continue to lose weight. I got to the point where I had hit my bottom, and so I'm on a cut. I'm intentionally reducing my caloric intake. So it does matter. It just may not matter as much. I was laughing at this. Yeah, probably. Anyway, so that's a great call out. It's not a permission to gorge. It's not a permission to eat all the bacon and all the steaks all the time and never do anything else. So
that said, bacon is awesome.
Yes, bacon is awesome. It's really hard to fit bacon into a cut, though.
Yeah.
It messes up your ratios quite a lot. Anyway, speaking of, I'm going to jump off camera here in a second. I've got pork belly in the oven. And so, Jim, why don't you tackle one of our questions that we've been taking on?
So we've talked about what keto is in terms of the diet and things like that. The next thing I think that a lot of people have asked about in our groups is the component of exercise and physical fitness and everything and how that ties into it. And, I can already tell without even looking at the comments on the right that there's going to be things about Berto and his awesomeness and everything. But we've got so many guys that are great in the gym, their home gym, their professional, whatever they're doing, there are a lot of guys who are doing physical activity. The thing about keto is that they can work hand in hand very well, but you have to be proactive in your thinking of what your physical activity is versus what your food intake is going to be versus what your needs are going to be. Bernie, I don't know what your thoughts are on pairing up the physical activity and following the keto way of eating.
Well, I definitely think that being active in some way that you can account for, is a great way to be in a calorie deficit, which allows you to, if you are hungry a little bit doing keto, you maybe are more active than you think you are, and your calories needed per day are maybe a little higher than if you accounted for all that exercise. And something simple like an Apple Watch or a Fitbit tracker or any of the other brands can show you, I'm probably exerting, let's say, 500 calories more per day than I thought. Now, that doesn't mean that you should eat 500 more calories during a day, but maybe if you ate 200 more calories a day, you would be less hungry. Because I experienced some hunger in the first couple of months of keto, not every day, but there were times where it was like, because until you figure out what foods and the ratios and stuff, sometimes you'll eat something and you look at your macro and it's like, my macro's full. I really shouldn't. It says I shouldn't eat anymore today. Mm-hmm. And, either you don't and you work your way through it, or you eat something small just to get rid of, that feeling of hunger. But in truth, maybe your calorie macro wasn't high enough. Mm-hmm. And so it's a tightrope, walk that you have to walk, unless you have some way to really quantify how much energy you're expending during a day. That's why I think these things like the Apple Watch and other devices are great, because you can look at the end of the day and say, wow, I didn't really realize that I burned 3,000 calories a day, right. But I'm only eating 1,800 calories a day. That's maybe too little. And, we could go into the whole thing about starvation mode and what your body does when it's not getting enough calories or enough fats in keto.
I'll jump in and say, I don't call it survival mode because that has earned kind of a bad name about it, but I will say preservation mode.
Okay.
Yeah. It's kind of when our body goes, okay, I need to hold on to what I have because I don't know if I'm going to get enough tomorrow. That type of thing. So right. that's why I choose preservation instead. It's kind of neither here nor there, but that's kind of my personal.
It's a better term. I see why.
one thing is, and we're doing this show in, mid-January 2021, and normally this time of year, everybody's renewed or started a gym membership, or they've found their plan that they are going to go and work out 3, 4, 17 times a week, whatever the case may be. Obviously, with COVID this year, that's not really been as big of a thing. But the reason I bring this up is that if you jump into a way of eating and add in a physical exercise, physical exertion component as well, and you're not used to eating this keto way of life, and then you go into a gym and decide that you're going to hit it hard and max out every time and try to, go from being a couch sitter to running 5 miles a day kind of thing, you're going to hurt yourself. You're not going to feel good. And all of a sudden, all the momentum that you had mentally about getting into better shape, feeling better, eating better, whatever the case may be, is suddenly out the window because you're popping Tylenol or ibuprofen or whatever because you hurt so bad. You can't jump into everything lock, stock, and barrel and expect it to just happen. You've got to ease into the physical part, especially so that your body can adjust, so that your body can accept the change. Because as Chris just mentioned, that preservation mode, I don't know what they call it on the working out side, but your body's eventually going to say, nope, I'm not doing this anymore. It hurts too bad. And then you're just like, screw it, pizza, done.
Yep.
And that's not going to do you any good.
Yep, absolutely.
Preaching.
Yeah, pretty much. This is a pretty good comment, though, kind of along those same lines that, how you couldn't be, Artie's saying, I don't see how you couldn't be active on keto because your energy level is just off the charts once you get fully adapted. I even go and run sometimes because of this. When your metabolic machinery is running well, it's hard to be lazy. I think that's a really great point because that was exactly the case for me. About 5 or 6 months in, I had lost a large majority of the weight that I had to lose. I got about 50 or 60 pounds down at that point, and I just had so much energy. I had to do something with it. I joined a boot camp thing outdoors and did it for 6 months. And that's like never, ever going to be something that I would have ever done prior to that. But I had so much energy, I just had to. And so I think that there is something that drives us to being active, but we can overdo it if we're not listening to our bodies. And so getting enough in is important. Bernie, go.
I'm going to say I'm one of the few people that didn't experience that huge energy boost.
Okay.
Or, some of the other things like suddenly, oh my God, my mental clarity is so much better. I never really noticed anything like that. I mean, I did exercise because I thought it was just part of getting fit. I got on keto to become more fit. Exercise is part of that. But I am sort of lazy by nature, and so I had to push myself to do those things because it would have been really easy for me just to eat keto and not do any of that stuff. But through some inspiration from, this group mainly, I decided to get off the couch and do some things, and later got even more serious about it and started lifting heavy. So RD is like, yes, I could have easily not done any of that, but I just think that it is, in general, good health is more than just what you eat. It's what you eat and what you do.
And I will add with that, every person has a different physical component, history and such. If somebody was an athlete from day one and was on the football team in high school and ran track and everything and worked out during college and everything, even if they gain, 30, 40 pounds over, a 10-year span, or whatever the case may be, there's some internal stuff in there that's already part of it that comes back to it. There are other people who have led entirely sedentary lives from day one. And I'm not saying this is a stereotype or anything, but if you were somebody who sat and played video games for 10 hours every day kind of thing and never got up and went outside or whatever, or I mean, anything,
Mhm.
you're going to have a harder start into that. So that's just nature to me. I don't think I'm wrong on that. I think that there are definitely some benefits of having a background of doing things physically that when you get back into it, it comes more easy to you.
Mhm.
I agree. And I was probably 30 years estranged from my athletic self.
I'm not calling you out. Trust me.
No. I'm just saying that to prove your point, there was a time when I was very athletically active and even good at it. And then there was, probably 30 years where I was doing a lot of drugs and doing a lot of drinking and sitting on my ass as much as possible. So that maybe that transition was happening and I really just didn't notice it,
Well, if you were pushing yourself to get in the gym and things like that, just based on pure inspiration, you probably started using that energy before it built up into the nuclear bomb that I experienced.
Yeah.
And so you shifted into that. And so I think
Right.
that's a good call out for sure. So let's see what, we've got some other questions that have been submitted. We talked about how to get in. Why and how do you get? Do I get so much? Why and how do I get so much fat? We talked about that. Let's see. What else do we want to cover? Let's the gallbladder thing. I think it was Jason up here.
Yeah.
Asked about gallbladder stuff, and I'll be honest with you, I don't know a ton about it. I have heard that there's people that have heard comments, oh, you're going to have problems with your gallbladder or that type of thing. I've never heard any scientific stuff. Here it is, Jason Haynes. Any of you gents had issues with gallbladder while doing keto diet? Any experience or tips that might be helpful? I think the only thing that I've heard that whether you do or don't have a gallbladder, it can be beneficial to take ox bile as a supplement to help with digestion and the fat. The other thing that I've heard or that I've seen is that if you have gut issues of some sort, you can actually ease in to the fat a little bit more. And so kind of do a little more high protein starting and then kind of back down into or increase it slowly. Any other thoughts on that, Jim?
No, I wish I had a little bit of insight like you said. I feel like we've had some guests over the last couple of years of doing the podcast that have talked about gallbladder issues. So I'll do a little research and see maybe after we get done with the podcast, if I can scroll through our notes and see if anybody had that and link it up. But yeah, I don't know. I have my gallbladder. I don't know that I've ever had any issues with it. I do have a buddy who had his gallbladder taken out 15, 20 years ago. Yeah. And if he eats something that's a pretty rich meal, especially a fatty meal, 30 minutes and he's disappeared. So but it depends on the person, I really think. So, yeah. When do we want to talk alcohol? Because that's a common question.
Yeah, that's a great question.
I feel like we need a drink to talk about this, but while we're talking about it, but I didn't plan ahead.
I've got my bar over there, but yeah, I didn't plan either that, and I'm not doing alcohol while I'm on the cut.
There you go.
Yeah. So alcohol and that was actually a question that came up in the 101 group, I think, yesterday or today, actually. And it was, is alcohol okay? And whatnot. So the short answer is the right alcohol is,
Are you laughing at what I think I'm laughing at too? At a comment from somebody?
At this one?
Let me put my glasses back on because I'm an old man. No, not that one.
No? Oh.
No, that's somebody else. I'll just say he loves brisket in a microwave, but that's another story.
Oh. Yeah, this one.
That's it. That one, yeah.
Breg Gevington.
Yeah, Greg wants to talk about this being Jim's chance to give me a shout out. That's not happening. Not gonna do it.
Yeah.
It's all fake love. But anyway, so alcohol.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
So the guideline I normally give is that alcohol is permissible as long as it's not a beer or a sweet wine. So most hard liquors are totally fine as long as they are straight alcohol. Mixed drinks are kind of frowned upon is the wrong term. They aren't great because usually they have ingredients that have sugar or syrups in them. So I have, in the last 4 years, learned that I had thought for a long time I wouldn't like whiskey because it's too strong of a flavor or whatever. I love a rye whiskey. It's great. It's just something to sip on, and it's good. So stick with straight whiskey, or not just whiskey, but straight alcohol, or try to stick to seltzers that have no added sugar and that type of thing. There are beers that are ultra low carb. I don't like that idea personally, but I for those people that want to do it, and especially if you've reached maintenance, I think you have a little bit more liberty because you have a bit more metabolic flexibility to do that. So if you really, really want a beer, find the right one, but find what works for you and that type of thing. Bernie, any thoughts on alcohol and consumption of alcohol on keto?
Well, I have no experience because I haven't had any alcohol in almost 22 years. But from a scientific point, and Matthew points it out here too, that, any sugar, any alcohol that you put into your system, your body will prioritize using that first. You will basically stop ketosis until you burn off that alcohol, those sugars, that glucose. Won't necessarily kick you out of ketosis permanently, but it'll pause it. Mm-hmm. So for someone who has, a big challenge of weight loss, I would keep alcohol to an absolute minimum. And like you said, though, once you're in, the home stretch or in maintenance, mm-hmm. then you just need to pay attention.
Sure.
Yeah. The other thing kind of with that is that as our group has evolved over the last 3-4 years, guys have talked about how alcohol has in fact impacted their lives as well. So going into this, kind of take a moment to step back and say, what is the purpose of the alcohol? Are you coming home and drinking 3 beers after work because that helps you unwind? Maybe there's an opportunity for something else to help you unwind. Maybe it is going out and just walking the neighborhood with your kid, or helping them ride their bike, or going to the mall and walking around with your wife. And it's something along those lines. Look at what the alcohol is doing for you, or what you think it's doing, and then what else can be done to get that same feeling. If it's, like I said, to relax or whatever. It doesn't mean that if you're going to your buddy's 40th birthday that you can't have something, but just try and take a look at the bigger picture of it, because you may find out that the alcohol isn't really a need as more as a replacement for something which can also be replaced.
Sure. Yeah, I think that's wise words, and alcohol can absolutely, we know this, Bernie knows this especially, it can be a crutch. It can be something that you get addicted to along with other things. And so for some people, it's just not a good idea. I have an addictive personality. And so I won't go. I know to be careful about some of that stuff. And so I choose to be very gentle. I've only been full on drunk like 2 or 3 times in my entire life. Yeah, pretty much. But
I was going to say in 2021, like, oh, this is a problem.
Yeah, I will say that being in downtown Austin, more or less by myself, during South by Southwest, drunk as a skunk and needing to get home was not fun. Luckily, I had a train ride to get to my car and was fine. But it just kind of one of those things that you, yeah. So I don't like doing that. But in imbibing a little bit here and there, totally an okay thing. Let's see, what else have we? We did have a good question about fasting from Matthew as well. Let me pull that up here real quick. Was prolonged fasting a game changer in your keto journey? Let's go around because I want to hear what you guys have to say about it. So, Jim?
So on January 4th, I started my own carnivore cut. I know what my weight was, but I'm not weighing for quite a while. I'm going by shirts, pants, how things are fitting and whatnot, and have definitely noticed a change in the last couple of weeks. I've noticed also that I'm finding that I can kind of do a fasting from about 7 p.m. until 11 a.m., 12 noon, somewhere right around there. Get home after work, eat. In the morning, I have never been a breakfast eater since forever. The only time I ever like breakfast is on like a weekend, 10 o'clock, ease into the weekend kind of thing. But around 11 or 12 at work, I've got a bag of like small cut salami from a local grocery store. I'll go grab 3 or 4 little slices of that. That tides me over. Lunch is fine if I even eat a big lunch. And then dinner has been, a couple chicken breasts. It's been a steak. It's been, different meats kind of thing. And so I think that has helped. I've never really been a faster. So this is kind of really my first, I'm trying this and see how it shakes out and everything. I will say that I found myself to be very thirsty in the mornings. And so I've been drinking at least a gallon of water a day. I've been throwing electrolytes in, some pink Himalayan salt, and some magnesium, blah, 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 one of those powder things.
Malate?
And no, it's the
Citrate.
citrate. That's it.
Citrate.
Yeah. And that has definitely helped. And so again, kind of readjusting into everything. So I don't have the greatest history with fasting just because I haven't done it that much. But again, you put fasting into one of the group searches and you're going to get 10 million responses. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people do swear by it, believe in it and everything. And it's, again, kind of like the macros, like you adjust to what works for you and roll. So,
Bernie?
I didn't really do much intentional fasting. Like I didn't really do intermittent fasting, but I kind of did. I didn't do I don't think I ever intentionally went on a 16-8 intermittent fast, but I didn't eat breakfast, and I would say for the first 4 months of keto, all I had in the morning was black coffee with some keto sweetener in it. No type of creamer or creamer substitute. After a while, when I started to supplement some more, in the morning, I would throw in a scoop of collagen powder in one of those cups of coffee. It's not a lot of calories. It was maybe 10 grams of protein, 10, 11 grams of protein. Technically, did that break the fast? Technically, yes. But still, I didn't eat a meal. I didn't put food that I had to chew in my mouth till lunchtime, till 12 or 1. So, 13 hours, 14 hours, that was a typical thing for me, pretty much for the first 9 months of keto. Then after that, I started to, play a little bit with some keto friendly creamers. But even now, and I've been on maintenance now for a year, maybe 3 or 4 mornings a week will I use some of that. The rest of the time I'm really drinking black coffee with a little sweetener in it. We hear a lot of guys in the main group talk about extended fasts.
Mm-hmm.
And I just don't pay attention to it because I'm not interested, and people like Zach Williams will post the science of it,
Mm-hmm.
right? What's the autophagy?
Autophagy. Mm-hmm.
Autophagy is supposed to have all these health benefits, and I'm sure it does.
Yeah. Between autophagy, which broken down based on so the expert on fasting, or at least in the keto world, the expert on fasting is going to absolutely be Dr. Jason Fung. He wrote the Complete Guide to Fasting, as well as the Obesity Code. I've read the Obesity Code, and he goes pretty in depth with fasting about what it does and how it can be very, very useful in a dietary protocol. So that's something to look. Those are some options to think about, to look at as we. As you dig into wanting to know more about fasting. But autophagy, when broken down or defined, is where your body breaks down parts of itself to use in other ways. So it's the repurposing of, and that's part of what ends up rebuilding muscle, rebuilding or taking away from fat, getting all the dead stuff, breaking it down and reusing it for other purposes and all of that. So autophagy is a very, very much a thing of renewal for the human body. And so I personally had never done an extended fast beyond normal 16/8, maybe OMAD, meaning 1 meal a day. I had never done that before I got to like my birthday last month. And I knew I was coming up on the second round of my cut, and I knew I was coming off of kind of being a little bit more loose with what I was eating in nominal ways, but in marked ways at the same time, that I just felt like it was time for me to do a more extended fast. So I basically made it to 52 hours, I want to say, two full days, and then the morning after. And it was just like, okay, this really wasn't that bad. By the time I'd gotten to that point, it really wasn't bad at all. The pro tip that I learned kind of after I'd already started was start after a decent sized breakfast on the quote unquote first day. That way your hunger signal, which usually kicks in about 16 or 17 hours, hits you overnight. And then when you wake up, you're going to be out of one of those things. And by the time you may have another hunger signal midday, the second day, but you can kind of power through it a little bit, which is what I did. And it really wasn't that bad. Let me pull it up here real quick since it's not labeled. Jason Thompson is sharing biggest benefit I have noticed from fasting is being able to determine when I'm actually hungry. It's a great way for you to reset your hunger signals and be able to do that. And yeah, as Randall says, after 18 hours, no hunger signals. So that first day when I did mine in December, I got right about the 5, 6, 7 o'clock p.m. and I'm going, and I'd been fasted since midnight the night before. I was like, yeah, I could eat, but I drank some water, some salted water, up my electrolytes, and that was it. It was good. Jim, you posted a really good question about water, so let's circle back to that real quickly. How much water to drink? You're drinking about a gallon a day right now. Mm-hmm. What guidelines are you going off of?
That I have a gallon jug. Honestly, yeah. That's what it is.
Yeah.
It's easy. I mean, I bought a gallon of drinking water at the grocery store, mm-hmm. and add all the powder and stuff to it. Throw it in the fridge the night before, out the door the next day. I will say that I have a couple of times given a couple spritz with some lemon juice just to help get rid of the boring water taste, so to speak. The electrolytes, I forget, there's a flavor to them. I forget what it is. So there's a little bit of that with it already, but it's just enough that it's not plain old water. When I was a little kid growing up, my mom had this thing about loving the pellet ice cubes and always wanted that at a restaurant or whatever. And I always thought that's just the goofiest thing in the world. But now really trying to focus on water intake, I want my water a certain way. So I will, I've got that jug, I've got all the mix and everything, and I'm totally a guy that goes and gets it out of the fridge and just knocks it back. As long as it's good and cold, I've got no problem. So I try to drink at least a gallon a day. I needed something different, so I got some Powerade tonight, just for something different. But I've heard the rule is that you're supposed to drink if you weigh 200 pounds, you're supposed to drink 100 ounces of water a day. You drink half your body weight in ounces a day. But, for some people, that just is hard to do. Yeah. So
Matthew Davis echoed that. So, yeah, it's
minimum. That is the minimum ounces of water to drink. Yeah, because I drink way more than that ratio.
So real quick, I can't really zoom in, and I'm not trying to pinch the screen here, but I was told by a coworker that if you pinch your fingers and your skin doesn't bounce back like really quick, that is a sign that you're dehydrated. Have you guys ever heard that? Or is that just somebody just wants to see?
No, we're all doing it, right?
Yeah,
everybody listening is doing it.
Everybody.
What do you consider bouncing back?
Well, that's
I think that in some situations is absolutely could be the case, because if you aren't hydrated enough, then you are dealing with not having enough fluid in your body. You can't make enough blood, and the blood flow itself can't get into those small areas very easily. And so, it could potentially stay dimpled for a little bit before it pops back out. If you're
Jason Thompson says it's pinched the back of your knuckle. So I don't.
Doesn't matter which finger.
Well,
yeah.
I don't know. I'm gonna leave that alone. My dad had a lot of heart issues before he passed away, and I remember when he had he was diagnosed with congestive heart failure, and his legs would swell. He'd have edema. Is that what it's called when you got fluid filled up or whatever? And so, I've witnessed, fortunately not myself, but with my dad's health over the last couple of years of his life, that, he'd have on a pair of socks, and at the end of the day, take the socks off, and you'd have just like it would be like the hose here, but then, exactly. So, that's something I actually look for also on the water side, is that can you have too much water and cause issues like that?
Yeah, you can. I think that's, you got to find, so I've always been the drink to thirst type person. So I drink when I'm thirsty. But I can honestly say that, especially when I'm doing carnivore, this is rather large. It's at least a liter. I can do 2 or 3 of these a day if I'm intentional about it. All I have to do is just make sure I have some ice, because I'm like Jim. I like it ice cold. I like it to be cold. The good news about this is I can even leave it open on my desk, and if I fill it up with ice, I come in the next morning, there's still ice in this thing. It's so thermal, which is nice. But it is one of those things that I kind of just drink to thirst. But I probably should be doing about 100. Yeah.
So you're in Texas. Obviously, it's winter right now, but during the summertime, do you find yourself drinking more water? And Bernie, you're in California, same thing. I mean, you're in more warmer climate than here in southern Indiana.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that that Berto will say on a day that he has to paint, he'll go through gallons and gallons of water and massive amounts of salt because he has to replenish, because especially when he's in his spacesuit shooting, it's like, nope, he's just that thing's a sweatsuit, and then it's 100+ degrees, and then it's the middle of the summer outside, which in Texas that can, more water and a lot more salt. Yeah, that's absolutely.
One thing I've noticed about myself is, I do these long walks, and in the summer months we have to go really early in the morning until otherwise it's too hot, and even though it's Los Angeles, we've up until a week ago, we had a pretty cold winter started. So we were actually waiting a little later in the day to get started. But, a year ago, when I would go on these walks, I would take some water with me, like a bottle of a small bottle of water, and drink it as we were doing these walks. Now I don't take any water with me, and we walk for about 90 minutes. And then I come back home, and as I'm, catching my breath and stuff, that's when I rehydrate. Sometimes I'll drink water with electrolytes before these walks, and sometimes I do it after. It kind of depends. I've tried to compare the two, and it's like I don't see a benefit or problem with either way. The same thing with like taking protein before or after. When I went to the gym, when I was lifting heavy, the protein before and after made a big difference. Mm-hmm. It's like I'm like you, Chris. I drink to thirst. This is like a 24-ounce thermal thing, and I probably never drink less than 4 of these, but I bet you there's days when I drink 7 or 8.
Absolutely.
Yeah. One other thing about water and hydration and everything, you can tell the difference the more water that you drink. Let me start over. If you're not drinking enough water and you start doing so, your urine is going to change to a whole different color as well. So ideally, I've always heard that it should be almost clear like water. So if you've got something rather dark yellow coming out, you probably need to go grab a bottle or 3 or 4 and knock it back, just because that's one of the signs your body is saying, hey, I need more water.
I have noticed, though, being like the other reason I would normally see the yellowish was like carbs and sugars spilling out, that I still see some darker color, even though when I know I'm there. And I think some of that may actually be that may actually be part of like my body's breaking down things and getting rid of it. So I use that as an indicator because I do want to be aware of it, but it's not the indicator to definitely, I weigh everything in strides. So
and it also can sometimes be just the leftover from a multivitamin or an if you mix an electrolyte drink extra heavy, like I do that sometimes too. Sometimes you'll have excess, and you're just flushing it out.
Yeah, absolutely. So there was a question earlier. I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to find it at this point, but it was about what supplements to supplement. I have my box down here of all the different things. I make my own multivitamin, basically.
What? How do you, okay. What? How do you do this, Chris?
No, I just take a whole bunch of separate pills.
Okay. I thought you had some chem lab, but you were
no.
D, vitamin C.
No. I just take several different pills, and for me personally, I have the benefit. I talked about this before with my testosterone replacement. I get blood labs and they monitor some of those core elements that I need, like vitamin D and such, on a regular basis. And so like this time around, I had some blood work done just recently, and my vitamin D is good. It could actually be a little lower. Like I may potentially had been taking too much. So it's kind of one of those things where you can find your sweet spot that way. But I would, as far as basic supplements that everybody needs to supplement on keto, it really actually comes down to electrolytes: magnesium, potassium, and sodium. if you're supplementing those three things, you may have other things that you need to supplement. Like right now, during this time where we need our immune systems to be as healthy as possible, you're going to want to include vitamin D. You're going to include K to help you absorb the vitamin D. You're going to want to supplement sometimes vitamin C.
What are you laughing at? Do I need to read?
Yeah, here we go. When Chris wakes up and goes, "Stand back, we're about to do science."
Our new swag at Keto Men's Club, lab coats.
Yeah, we'll get on that. But yeah, the supplements while you're on keto really aren't that much different than what you would normally want to supplement outside of electrolytes, because part of a side effect in a good way that our bodies do is it doesn't hold on to electrolytes. Our kidneys aren't having to work so hard to try to recycle them, and they kind of sometimes spill those electrolytes out. And so if you're just starting out, make sure that you're getting plenty of magnesium and potassium and sodium all in. Go ahead, Bernie.
Well, I also wanted to point out that at least in the United States, they have put limits on how much potassium and magnesium they can put into an electrolyte drink.
Yeah.
And it's not enough. It's nowhere near the recommended daily allowance. So I, besides using a pre-mixed electrolyte drink, also supplement more magnesium and more potassium into those drinks, and you can get those in bulk from all kinds of places.
Sure.
And so what I do is I put a scoop in of the flavored stuff, and then a scoop of the two bulk things, and mix them up real well, and making sure I get all that.
This is going to be fuzzy if I try to. Okay, so this is my potassium. It's 99 milligrams, which is the maximum that they could put in a pill. So I take a couple of these a day. We're supposed to be getting like 1,500 milligrams.
Right.
Go ahead, Jim.
Where do you get the numbers of what we are supposed to have?
From the government.
Oh, Lord! I thought we were wrapping up. We don't want to go down this.
Yeah, no, that's a rabbit trail. We'll
Yeah, but it is way more than what are in these things.
So
part of the reason that they do it is you can actually overdose on potassium. It is possible. Right. So that's why they have some limits, because they don't want you to take 3,000 milligrams of pills of the potassium to, and then overload yourself, especially with all the people that are eating like 15 bananas a day or something like that and getting loads of it. If you want a natural, really high source of potassium, avocado. All day, every day. It's just one of those things. So definitely something to be aware of. And yes, no salt. So that's the other thing. This is how, I have light salt, which is half salt, half potassium. No salt, it's all potassium. But that's another great way to be able to up your potassium intake in the day. You just add some of that to your water. I actually like how it tastes, so that helps, and things like that. So yeah, there's Jim. I think you had a question.
Well, I already asked how much magnesium is in the Powerade, and I was trying to snap a photo and tag it, but I'm 14 different tech things and all that stuff. Potassium 35 milligrams, niacin 15%, vitamin B 15%, vitamin B12 35%. Magnesium contains less than 2% of the daily value of these nutrients. So it doesn't even say how much it is, just that it's less than 2%.
Yeah. So it's not much. It's not much. And so, yeah, there's,
but I think, seriously, I think that's one thing that I get confused on, is how much we are supposed to take, because, I pop my multivitamin in the morning, and one of the things that I've heard from multiple people in the medical field that's a really good supplement is actually fish oil. Fish oil is a natural lubricant that if you have a history of heart disease in your family, that this can help be a preventative because it lubricates the veins and the arteries and can help prevent blockages, clots, and things like that. So I take a couple fish oil pills every day as well. But yeah, just knowing, you can see it on the bottle, as Chris was just talking about, here's what is in this, but yet, is that what we really need? Or is that just what's in there? Especially with Indiana weather, you get 8 hours of sunlight right now.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people I know that are popping 4,000 or 5,000 whatever that milligram, grams, whatever of vitamin D, just to help get some in your system.
So just for perspective, this 99 milligram pill of potassium is 3% of the daily value.
Right. I just looked it up, and it says 3,500 to 4,700 milligrams of potassium is recommended.
And where is your source there, Bernie? Just out of curiosity.
Healthline. It's an online thing. And now I'll check magnesium.
Magnesium, normally it's a good idea to get at least 500 milligrams a day, sometimes as much as 1,000. The good news about magnesium is that one you can't overdose on. Your body will just get rid of it. It has its way
with other things.
Yeah, with other things. And
cue up the rotten emojis.
Here it says for adults 31 to 50, about 420 milligrams.
And that's probably assuming that you're getting that also, like that's how much you can supplement, or that's how much you should get if you're healthy and metabolically sound and yada yada yada. When we're not, and then of course we are being ketogenic, we don't hold on to any of that stuff. It spills out and all of that. So yeah, so something around 400 or 500, find your sweet spot. And sometimes it is better to split it up. So half in the morning, half in the evening. It will actually help you sleep. So it's good to take it at night, at least some, because that can help your body relax and things like that. Let's start winding down. Jim, you did want to get into support. And I think that's a really good thing to call out.
Well, since we're kind of going 101 tonight, a quick backstory of the Keto Man's Club, which then added in the Keto 101 Man's Club. There's so many resources, as we talked about, on Facebook and whatnot, but a lot of them can get deep into crazy weeds, and there can be all kinds of challenges and whatnot. So when the groups were formed, the idea was just, one place to chat and be at a little bit higher level than how does this work kind of thing. And clearly we've been successful now that we've got, close to 4,000 members in the big group, close to 1,000 in the 101 group, our podcast followers, blah, blah, blah. So as the group has evolved and grown over time, we've heard guys share about their fitness and health goals and whatnot, but then they get into why they're doing certain things, why they're eating certain ways, why they're not eating certain ways. And there could be all kinds of things from marriage challenges, work, kids, families, life, COVID, all kinds of things. And this has become an extremely safe place for our members to talk, laugh, cheer each other on, share information, and really get personal on things. So regardless of what way of eating you're following, regardless of where you are on the journey, if you're at step 1, step 100, or somewhere in between kind of thing, having some kind of support system is crucial for all of this. We talked earlier about going to the gym, and if you hit it hard right at the start, you may do more harm than good, and you're going to get defeated very quickly. You've got to have the support to know how to do things right, how to start slow, advance, build, grow, hit those goals, hit those accomplishments and whatnot. And it's kind of like religion to me. I don't care what you believe in. I really don't. I care more that you are a good person. And, sometimes you have to have a belief in a higher power, whatever the case may be, just to kind of turn over the troubles of the day. So same thing with this. Whatever you're wanting to do, if you find that the Keto Man's Club, the Keto 101 Man's Club, our podcast, whatever, is a great place for you to get support, we're here. We ain't going anywhere. If it is your church, if it's coworkers, if it's your family, whatever the case may be, take advantage of it. But keep in mind, and then I'll get off my soapbox, is that if the support is not right for you, then find the right support for you. It's not a insert slot A into tab B every time. It's not that at all. You may have that buddy that you work with who says, let's join the gym together. We're going to not eat donuts every morning like we normally do. And we're going to do this. And you are gung-ho and you follow it. And 10 days in, you see him at Dunkin' walking out with a 6-pack. Like, this isn't, no, can't do it. There's nothing wrong with your buddy, but you've got to find something, some way, somehow to stay focused and find your why.
Absolutely.
Yeah. A kind of rule of thumb that we use in recovery circles, like especially when you come in new and you're looking for someone to sponsor you. A sponsor is a person that helps you walk your way through that program, the 12-step program, is to look for someone who has what you want. Now, I don't mean what kind of car they have, but, has, let's say in the keto world, has lost a bunch of weight or has gotten very fit or has found a thing or has opened up in the group about an issue that you also have, like depression or food addiction or whatever, and has found some success in it. Look for the person that has shown you that they will have something of value to offer you if you reach out to them. And I would say almost to a man in our two Keto Men's Club groups, if you ask somebody for help, if you reach out, you're going to get some attention. And quite often it'll be worthwhile and valuable to you or helpful in some way. Even if it's to call you, shut up, stop whining, you little baby, because that may be what you need, or it might be, man, I totally understand what you're going through. And, let me give you a virtual hug and tell me all about it, and anything in between.
Mm-hmm. I had literally, as I'm sitting on the couch doing some video editing earlier, I get on Facebook to distract myself for a few moments and get away from the grind of cutting the video down. And I come across a friend of mine, an old coworker, that posted his moment, that okay, come to Jesus. This is getting real type thing. And he posted very publicly, and he said, I don't want just well wishes here. I'm not even wanting any of that. I just needed to declare this. And it's kind of the same way as Bernie in the recovery circles, the first step is admitting that you have a problem. That's exactly what he was sharing. And it almost put me in tears, because I remember what that was like as I recounted to him in my comment in response to that and saying, hey dude, you're not alone. And while this seems monumental, you can do it. I've done this, but I also know guys who have lost 500 pounds twice. Yeah, so like it being able to not only be that voice of, hey, you can do it, but also like really coming up and be a battle buddy with him and be able to fight. And I followed up my comment with a private message saying, hey dude, I'm not going to force keto on you by any means, but if you want to know, I'll tell you. And I, that type of thing. And so I'm actually going to send him this live session so he can view it, so he can, when he gets around to it, so he can see is maybe something that will work for him, because it's, yeah. I guess that may be the best way to close us out is, let's go around the three of us, and we asked this question to our guests. What was the one thing that you wish you would have known when you started keto? and I'll start so you guys can think. For me, the thing that I wish I knew before I'd started keto was that I am so much more capable of doing what I set out to than I thought I was. Up till starting and getting into the ketogenic way of life, I really truly didn't have, I was a leaf in the wind. I just blew everywhere. I had plenty of passions, plenty of things that I was bouncing around from, and I still do that to a degree. But at this point, I have proven that I can pick a path and stay on it. And I have for nearly 4 years, and I'm a much better human being because of it. So it's not about the food. It's not about the diet. It's not about losing the weight. It's about finding the best version of myself. And in that, part of the reason I do this podcast and I get as passionate about keto as I have is it's almost the same level of importance to me that my religion, that my spiritual belief is. It's been that type of experience for me. So that's kind of, yeah. Jim, let's go with you, and then we'll go to Bernie.
I would say probably that when I was soapboxing a few moments ago about how the group got started and the support and everything, I feel like our groups are an example of what social media should be and how it can be beneficial to people. And so I'm glad that I'm glad that I had a little bit of the wherewithal to say this is something that I need, and I can't be alone in that. There's got to be other guys out there that are trying to find this stuff and figure it out. So I guess that it's not so much what I wish I knew, but I'm glad to know that I wasn't the only one who was trying to figure it out. And clearly it's evolved that there's a lot more to it than as we started this conversation an hour or so back of it's not just eat bacon, eat steak, and no potato chips, that there's a lot more to the whole thing. And it's okay to take 3 steps forward and 1 step back at times. It's okay to, realize that 2020 just sucked in so many ways, and that sometimes you don't want to forget about it, but you may have to change your focus for a brief period of time for the sake of your family, for your job and whatnot. It doesn't mean we're going to eat potato chips for dinner or whatever, but you get where I'm saying is that sometimes it's just what it is. But the fact that you can step back into it, that you can you can regroup and get back on the right path. Every day is a new day. The sun has come up every day, no matter what's gone on in the universe. So that's what I guess I got from it, is that we're all in this together. We're just maybe at different phases of it, but we're all doing it.
Bernie?
It's funny. I can't think of anything really that I wish I would have known ahead of time, because I've really enjoyed, the keto journey since the beginning. And I found your group, maybe 2 months in. So I guess maybe the thing would be, what I wish I knew is that there's more than one way to do keto. That there's not just one way. You don't have to fight about it.
Yeah.
There's a lot of acceptable ways to do keto and come out with the same result.
Mm-hmm.
And we see it in the group every day.
And isn't that an allegory for life?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's definitely not something that's unique to keto, but
yeah,
it's definitely.
Health is not exactly a mathematical equation.
Mm-mm.
Yes, there's only one way to solve certain mathematical equations. But if the question is, how do I become more fit? There's a lot of ways, and this is the way that we have found, and but there's not one way. And so I just wish I would have known that earlier, because, even the wife and I argued about how to do this, based on what we were reading. If we watched 2 different YouTube videos, we would have an argument because, we wanted our YouTube video to be the right one, or it made more sense to us or whatever. And it, I think my tip in general is relax. Do this as well as you can do it, and just go. Just go.
It doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be perfect. A step forward in any direction is a step forward.
Yeah.
I think that's that's a great way to close us out. We have been going far too long, and
a lot of it was junk. You're going to cut out. So.
Or not, because I might just leave it in there. Let's go ahead and go back really quickly to the normal podcast business here. A reminder again that you can go to our website, theketomansclub.com, and get links to all of our socials. Bernie, shout out your social places that people can connect with you, if you would.
I mean, basically, Facebook is the best way. I don't visit Instagram very much anymore, so that's just my name, Bernie Druckman. I don't go by anything else, and you can find me any day in the Keto 101 group or in the main the Keto Man's Club group. And I believe that if you look at your profile, if you think you can find my email that I have attached to it. And if you want to get a hold of me, feel free.
Absolutely. And just had a good reminder. We had the December tracking challenge, and I have a list here. Where's the list? There we go. Let me put these through a randomizer real quick, because we have some swag that we're going to give away to those that participated. And there was few enough people that we're just going to give something to everybody.
Participation trophies.
Well, Chris is doing that. So if you want to look for me, I am on Instagram at Jim Inman Jr. And then you can find me in all of the keto groups, the Keto Man's Club, the Keto 101 Man's Club as well. You, of course, find us on our podcast page. Chris has done an awesome job on our website, theketomansclub.com, for contacting myself, Chris, and Alberto. Bernie is awesome as one of our admins in the groups, and especially the Keto 101 Man's Club, of welcoming the new guys and everything. So he's easy to find. He's the guy who's got his hand behind his head and just lounging in his bed, relax.
Ask me anything. Ask me anything. See if I break a sweat.
Love it. Love it. Love it. Okay, so I put it through the randomizer, and I hit again and randomized it multiple times here. And I'll just share my screen.
Is that a bubble sort? Never mind. This goes back to my computer programming school days.
Random.org. It's a wonderful website. So here's our list. 7 people participated and tracked and got their logs to me, which is, and so what we're going to do, everybody in the first 5 gets swag of some sort. So I'll try to reach out to you guys. Let me take a screenshot of this so I make sure I have it in the right order. Whether it's something that you don't have, we'll work out the details on that from the swag bin. Then I believe, let's see, let me coordinate here real quick, because we had other people helping with this.
We're not giving away gift cards to Starbucks for keto drinks, just FYI.
Oh, there is an answer for that question.
I don't care.
Black coffee.
Black
Always
coffee.
fair.
Yeah, black coffee is always fair, regardless of the coffee joint. Yeah.
That.
So Nathan is going to get one-on-one coaching from Jim, myself, and Berto in some way, shape, or form. We don't have that fleshed out yet, so that's something that we're going to work through. And then Ryan is getting I believe it's $100, isn't it? $100 gift card.
I think so.
Yeah. So and so we're going to coordinate and get that to you guys. So look out for private messages. Look out for some type of something, and then
RD just made a note. Don't use this service for giveaways.
Oh well,
What it says.
you know.
Use multi-round giveaways instead.
Yeah, well, you know, we work with what we get quickly whenever we're yeah. Yeah. So that's our list of winners, and thank you for those that participated. We
Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
it's so between the visual and the audio.
With good reason.
Yeah.
He can be intense. So yeah, we've got some good things in the pipeline for all fronts, and if you're scared, you need it. There we go. Some helpful encouragement there. Okay, so let's go ahead and wrap this up. TheKetoMansClub.com. A reminder that you can call us at 512-518-6161. You can also text us if you want to do. And then you can email us at KetoMansClubPodcast@gmail.com. That's pretty much it. Any other last things other than thank you for everybody that tuned in live, that chimed in, that had this conversation with us. It was really very fun, and I liked having the live audience thing, having some back and forth with folks, even if it did trigger my ADD on a million levels. But it's all all good. I will mention it real quickly, even though there's always the pre-roll ad on this. If you haven't tried SOM yet, you need to, mainly because it will help you sleep deeper and more completely than what you would without it. We've got, and then when you buy using the affiliate link at our website, you will actually get, you can use TKMC10 as the discount code, and between the link and the discount code, we will end up getting a little bit of contribution back to us. So if you'd support us in that way, support this brand that's really, really great, do so. That's it for everything I got. And I don't think there's any other business to attend to, Jim, right?
We're good.
Okay, very good. Well, that's it for this week. Until next week, make sure to eat meat, lift heavy, sleep, and repeat.